Life story of the Luchese-Gambino Alliance. Introduction. The Luchese-Gambino Alliance is one of the most notorious partnerships in the history of organized crime in the United States. Rooted deeply in the Italian-American Mafia, the alliance between the Luchese and Gambino crime families played a pivotal role in shaping the landscape of organized crime, particularly in New York City. This alliance, marked by its involvement in extortion, robbery, and drug trafficking, demonstrates the complex web of power, loyalty, and violence that defines the Mafia world. The origins of the Luchese and Gambino families, the Luchese family. The Luchese crime family traces its origins to the early 20th century, beginning with the Morello family, one of the earliest Mafia families in New York. The family's rise to power was marked by its involvement in bootlegging during Prohibition, and later in the garment industry, where it gained significant influence. Tommy "Three-Finger Brown" Luchese, for whom the family is named, became the head of the family in the 1950s. Under Luchese's leadership, the family became one of the most powerful in New York, known for its control over unions, particularly in the garment industry, and its involvement in various illegal activities, including extortion, loan sharking, and gambling. The Gambino family. The Gambino family, another pillar of the American Mafia, has its roots in the D'Aquila family, which was founded by Salvatore D'Aquila in the early 1900s. The family went through several leadership changes and power struggles before Carlo Gambino, a shrewd and calculating figure, assumed control in the late 1950s. Under Gambino's leadership, the family expanded its operations, engaging in a wide range of criminal activities, including drug trafficking, murder for hire, loan sharking, and extortion. The Gambino family became the most powerful crime family in the United States, with vast influence over various legitimate and illegitimate businesses. The formation of the alliance. The Luchese-Gambino Alliance was born out of mutual interests and the need for collaboration to maximize profits and power. This alliance was not formalized with a written agreement, but rather through strategic partnerships and shared criminal enterprises. The Commission's role. The Commission, an organization established to oversee Mafia activities and resolve disputes, played a significant role in fostering cooperation between the crime families. Both the Luchese and Gambino families were key members of the Commission, and their leaders often worked together to maintain order and prevent conflicts that could weaken their respective organizations. Key figures in the alliance. Tommy Luchese. Tommy Luchese was a central figure in the Luchese-Gambino Alliance. Known for his intelligence and ability to navigate the complex world of organized crime, Luchese was instrumental in forming and maintaining the alliance. He cultivated relationships with key figures in the Gambino family, ensuring that both families could collaborate effectively in various criminal enterprises. Carlo Gambino. Carlo Gambino, often referred to as the boss of bosses, was another key figure in the alliance. His leadership style, characterized by patience and strategic thinking, complemented Luchese's approach. Gambino understood the value of alliances and worked closely with Luchese to expand the influence and operations of both families. Paul Castellano. Paul Castellano, Gambino's successor, also played a crucial role in the alliance. Castellano was more focused on business operations, and under his leadership, the Gambino family expanded its involvement in white-collar crime, particularly extortion and racketeering. Castellano maintained the alliance with the Luchese family, recognizing the benefits of cooperation in their criminal endeavors. Criminal activities. The Luchese-Gambino Alliance was involved in a wide range of criminal activities. While both families had their own operations, They often collaborated on major enterprises that required the combined resources and influence of both organizations. Extortion was one of the primary activities of the Luchese-Gambino Alliance. Both families had extensive networks that allowed them to exert control over various industries, particularly in New York City. They used intimidation, threats of violence, and their influence over labor unions to extort money from businesses. The construction industry, in particular, was heavily targeted, with both families controlling which companies could bid on contracts and demanding kickbacks for allowing them to operate. Robbery. The alliance was also involved in high-profile robberies, often working together to plan and execute heists that required careful coordination and precision. These robberies were not just about the immediate financial gain, but also served to reinforce the power and reputation of the families. The alliance's involvement in robberies extended beyond simple theft. It often included sophisticated operations that involved bribing officials, intimidating witnesses, and ensuring that law enforcement was either complicit or too fearful to interfere. Drug trafficking. Drug trafficking was another major area of collaboration between the Luchese and Gambino families. While the Mafia had traditionally been reluctant to involve itself in drug trafficking due to the severe penalties associated with it, the potential profits proved too tempting to ignore. The Luchese-Gambino Alliance became deeply involved in the international drug trade, importing and distributing heroin and cocaine throughout the United States. Their operations were highly organized, with connections to suppliers in Europe and South America and distribution networks that reached across the country. The height of power. During the 1960s and 1970s, the Luchese-Gambino Alliance reached the height of its power. The family's control over unions, businesses, and criminal enterprises allowed them to accumulate vast wealth and exert significant influence over both the legal and illegal worlds. Their reach extended beyond New York, with operations and connections in other major cities across the United States. The Five Families. The alliance between the Luchese and Gambino families was part of a broader structure known as the Five Families of New York. These families, including the Bonanno, Colombo, and Genovese families, dominated organized crime in New York City. While there were occasional conflicts, the Commission ensured that disputes were resolved in a way that preserved the power and profitability of the Mafia as a whole. Influence over unions. One of the key areas of influence for the Luchese-Gambino Alliance was their control over labor unions. By controlling unions, the families could dictate the terms of labor agreements, extort money from businesses, and ensure that their criminal activities were protected from interference. The construction industry, in particular, was heavily influenced by the alliance, with both families taking a cut from nearly every major project in New York City. Political connections. The alliance also cultivated relationships with politicians, law enforcement, and business leaders, using bribery, blackmail, and intimidation to secure their cooperation. These connections allowed the families to operate with relative impunity, as investigations were often stalled or derailed by those in positions of power. The ability to influence political and legal systems was a key factor in the alliance's long-term success. Challenges and decline. Despite its power and influence, the Luchese-Gambino Alliance faced numerous challenges that ultimately led to its decline. Law enforcement pressure. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, law enforcement agencies, particularly the FBI, intensified their efforts to dismantle organized crime in the United States. The RICO Act, which allowed prosecutors to charge individuals for participating in a criminal organization, became a powerful tool in the fight against the Mafia. Many high-ranking members of the Luchese and Gambino families were arrested, convicted, and sentenced to long prison terms, severely weakening the alliance. Internal conflicts. Internal conflicts also contributed to the decline of the Luchese-Gambino Alliance. The assassination of Paul Castellano in 1985, orchestrated by John Gotti, led to a power struggle within the Gambino family. Gotti's rise to power marked a shift in the family's operations, with a greater emphasis on violence and a more public profile, which brought increased law enforcement scrutiny. The Luchese family also experienced its own internal strife, with leadership changes and power struggles weakening the organization. These conflicts, coupled with the pressures from law enforcement, made it difficult for the alliance to maintain its power and influence. The role of informants. The use of informants and the government's witness protection program also played a crucial role in the decline of the alliance. Several key members of the Luchese and Gambino families turned state's evidence, providing law enforcement with insider information that led to numerous arrests and convictions. The betrayal of trusted members further eroded the trust and cohesion that had been the foundation of the alliance. The legacy of the Luchese-Gambino Alliance. Despite its decline, the legacy of the Luchese-Gambino Alliance continues to influence the world of organized crime. The alliance is often cited as an example of how cooperation between powerful criminal organizations can lead to immense power and influence. However, it also serves as a cautionary tale of how internal conflicts, increased law enforcement pressure, and the erosion of traditional mafia values can lead to the downfall of even the most powerful organizations. Impact on modern organized crime. The methods and strategies developed by the Luchese-Gambino Alliance have been adopted by other criminal organizations around the world. Their approach to extortion, drug trafficking, and political influence has been replicated in various forms, demonstrating the lasting impact of their operations. However, the increased scrutiny of organized crime in the modern era has made it more challenging for similar alliances to achieve the same level of success. Cultural representation. The Luchese-Gambino Alliance has also left a lasting mark on popular culture. The stories of their exploits, power struggles, and eventual downfall have been depicted in numerous books, films, and television shows. These representations, while often dramatized, have contributed to the